Introducing CollabNetSubversionEdge. After more than a year in development, it's now ready for you. So what is it? In a nutshell, it's a premium distribution of Subversion brought to you by CollabNet. Now, in case you're wondering who's CollabNet and why are we qualified to bring you a premium distribution of Subversion, let me take just a minute to give you some background before we get into the product details. CollabNet founded the open source project about 10 years ago, and since that time, we've been an active sponsor and leader in the Subversion community. We maintain more Subversion committers on staff than anyone else, and they actively drive Subversion development and the overall roadmap. Our engineers don't just contribute code to Subversion, but they create and lead related projects, such as Subclips, the Subversion plugin for Eclipse, AnkSVN, the Subversion plugin for Visual Studio, and ViewVC, an application that allows you to browse through your Subversion repositories graphically. Our team contains Subversion thought leaders and trainers, and one of our employees co-wrote the original O'Reilly reference book on Subversion, one of the most widely used reference manuals on Subversion today, and he continues to update it with every major release. From an operations point of view, we've been hosting Subversion and offering it as a service longer than any other company, right from our own data centers, for small and very large companies, 40,000 plus users. So we've seen and addressed just about every Subversion issue you can think of. For years, we've been offering enterprise support, training, and services for Subversion, and a broad set of CollabNet employees actively participate in Subversion forums every day. But on top of all of this, we ourselves are users of Subversion. Since our team is immersed in Subversion on a daily basis, working with clients and monitoring the forums, we often ask ourselves, how can we make Subversion even easier? To answer this question, let's take a look at Subversion today, and let's just start with installation. In order to install Subversion today, you basically have two options. The first is to get the source code from tigris.org and compile it yourself to work on your operating system of choice. The next option is to choose one of the certified binaries listed in the Apache project. And there's some benefits to doing this for end users. It can save time for people who don't want to compile their own source code, and some vendors, including CollabNet, offer commercial support for their binaries. But installing Subversion is really just the first step for our Subversion downloader. Next, they need to download Apache and configure it to work with Subversion, set up SSL for secure communications, perhaps integrate with their corporate LDAP for user authentication, and set up authorization using Apache's Auth0. They may also download and install related components such as ViewVC for repository browsing, and Python bindings for hook scripts. Finally, they need to make sure all these pieces work together. Not only that, but now they need to maintain all of these pieces moving forward, meaning they need to keep up with all the latest releases of each component, maintain compatible versions, and even monitor and apply security patches. So today, Subversion downloaders spend a lot of time here and here. This is a screenshot of one of our own Subversion forums on Open CollabNet. And as you can see, there are multiple questions around the things we just talked about. There's a question on ViewVC, an SSL error, trouble connecting to a server, questions about setting up security, Apache, LDAP, authentication, and that's just within the last 3 weeks of grabbing the screenshot. Our Director of Engineering stated, "Not a day goes by where there are not questions on our forums or in the Tigris Apache forums from someone who needs help getting started with setting up a Subversion server." So with that in mind, how did our Subversion engineers go about answering the question, how do we make Subversion even easier? Simple. We spent over a year creating and bringing to you CollabNetSubversionEdge. But what is it? CollabNetSubversionEdge is a single download, a single installer that installs an entire certified stack of the most commonly used components of a Subversion environment: the Apache web server, Subversion, and ViewVC for repository browsing. It also includes a secure web-based console to configure and manage all of it easily from a central location, and that's the real secret sauce of the whole thing. This console is also being released as open source. Now, most Subversion binaries today and the certified binaries contain only the Subversion server. CollabNetSubversionEdge goes far beyond a single certified binary. It's a complete stack with a web-based management interface that allows for some pretty cool stuff like remote administration, but we'll get into that more a bit later. So why do we think that CollabNet's Subversion Edge is going to revolutionize today's Subversion experience? Really for three main reasons. The first, it makes the entire Subversion environment not only easy to install and configure, but secondly, easy to maintain over time. It also helps with security and end-user governance. Now let's dive into some of the features that come right out of the box. A single installer installs not only Subversion, Apache, and Vue VC, but more importantly, they're automatically configured to work together. They can be installed in any directory, and because of that, you don't need root access in Linux to install or even run the application. Of course, you could install it in root if you like, but it's not required. After all components are installed, already configured to work together, you finish all of your custom configuration directly from the web console. The console makes it easy to see what fields are required and automatically takes care of updating the underlying components. For example, enabling SSL is as simple as checking a box. There's easy access to CollabNet's forums and training modules right from within the console. You can also go here to download Subversion clients and IDE integrations. Although the simplified installation and configuration will save you a ton of time, it doesn't compare to the time you'll save in ongoing administration. CollabNet Subversion Edge comes with an auto-update mechanism that delivers the latest components and security patches straight to you, just like subscribing to the newspaper. Whenever updates are available, you'll see an alert pop up directly in your web browser. You can choose whether to install them or not. If you do want to install them, again, you can do it straight from within your browser. No physical access to the server is required. What's more, the application knows how to update itself while running. It automatically restarts and replaces the in-use files so you don't have downtime. With auto updates, your entire stack stays certified, compatible, current, and correctly configured. At any time, you can see a list of what's currently installed, along with version number and date last updated. Not only that, but you can do all of this remotely using only your browser. You don't need physical access to your server, so you could literally be sitting at a beach, provided, of course, you've got internet access. So what else can you do from this web console? For one thing, you can create a new Subversion repository, simply by entering a name and clicking Create. There's even a checkbox that allows you to create your repository using a standard template for trunk, branches, and tags. And again, you don't need access to the physical server. If you already have existing repositories, there's a utility that will allow you to discover them automatically and easily connect them to Subversion Edge. Once your servers are connected, you can check the status of all of them from a single screen. There's also server health monitoring. You can get at-a-glance view of server stats and monitor disk space and throughput over time. This allows you to monitor trends and see early warnings of issues and plan for future hardware upgrades. Finally, you can view and manage both Subversion and Apache log files. Many people don't bother setting up log rotation and cleanup, but if log files accumulate over time, they can actually start to impact server performance. With Subversion Edge, you can control these settings easily. You can even choose to log high-level Subversion operations to a separate file so you can analyze your Subversion use over time. Many people don't even know this feature exists within Subversion, but it's just one example of how CollabNet has built in best practices to help you set up and run the most efficient Subversion environment possible. As we move on to security and governance, we actually hit on one of the most active topics in the Subversion forum: how to configure integration between Subversion and LDAP. With Subversion Edge, you can enter all required settings in a single screen and you're good to go. With authentication covered with LDAP, you can also set up user permissions or authorization for your Subversion repositories using Apache's authz. We make the file easy for you to access and update from within your browser. As you can see, this management console is quite powerful in terms of all the things you can do, so you'll definitely want to control access to Subversion Edge itself. It ships with a set of standard roles that allow you to do just that. One of these roles is for end users. That means that end users can now use the console itself to do basic requests like change their password. It may not sound like a big deal, but in many Subversion environments, changing a password requires admin access. So end users actually have to enter a request for the administrator to update their password and then wait for the request to be satisfied. This is a huge waste of time for both the end user and the administrator. But with CollabNet Subversion Edge, the situation becomes a thing of the past. End users can also use Vue VC to browse the contents of a Subversion repository. They can do things like view current and past revisions, and even see a visual diff of what has been changed in a particular change set. Of course, all access rights are respected. So with all of these great features, who will use Subversion Edge? There's really something in it for everybody. End users can use it to do things like change their password, browse repositories, and participate in the integrated community. Administrators can use it to easily install and configure an entire certified stack of Apache, Subversion, and Vue VC, administer it remotely, and keep all of it up to date with automatic updates. And team leads who perhaps are not currently strong users of Subversion today will be able to use the web console to answer questions for themselves, such as what contractors have access to which projects. This brings a whole new level of governance and visibility to managers. So as you can see, it's not just for administrators. CollabNetSubversionEdge makes it possible for more users to install and interact with Subversion. So are you ready to make Subversion even easier? We've worked hard to make CollabNetSubversionEdge the best Subversion distribution you can get anywhere, period. We invite you to give it a try. It's free and available as open source. We created this product with you in mind, so don't forget to drop by our forum. You can ask questions, give feedback, and interact with others. The CollabNet team is here to listen and help you get an edge over what you're doing today.